Pain. It came in waves, dull at first, then sharp and searing, dragging Commander Vrine back to awareness. His mandibles twitched as his dual hearts pounded weakly in his chest. His vision swam, smoke, flickering fires, the distant echoes of weapons fire fading into eerie silence. He was still on the battlefield. Still alive. That was unexpected. Vryn tried to move, but agony flared through his exoskeletal plating, cracks running along his thorax where human plasma rounds had struck. He hissed in frustration. His helmet's HUD flickered erratically, static washing over his interface before it went dark. No response from his unit. No distress beacon. No extraction signal. He was alone. Panic clawed at the edges of his mind. He was Zarkari Dominion, a warrior-bred species that had conquered entire star systems, but the thought of being left behind, abandoned, sent ice through his veins. His people did not rescue the wounded. A soldier who fell behind was already dead in the eyes of the Dominion. That was the way of things. Vryn turned his head slightly, vision blurring as he spotted movement in the distance. Shadows. Humanoid shapes. Humans. A group of them, 5 or 6, moving cautiously through the wreckage. Their armor was battered, scorched from battle, but they were alive. Unlike his unit. Unlike him. He gritted his teeth. This was it. Capture, interrogation. Maybe execution. A wounded enemy was a liability, not an asset. They drew closer, weapons raised, scanning the bodies for survivors. One of them, a male with tan skin and a helmet marked with a red cross, spotted him. Got one over here. The human called out, jogging forward. Vryn bared his mandibles, preparing to lunge despite his injuries. If he was going to die, he'd do it with whatever fight he had left. But the human didn't shoot. Instead, the soldier knelt beside him, rifle slung over his back. His hands moved to a small pack at his waist, pulling out medical supplies. A soft hiss filled the air as he injected something into Vryn's shoulder. Vryn snarled weakly. What are you doing? The human adjusted his grip, pressing gauze against a wound Vryn hadn't even noticed. Keeping you from bleeding out, big guy. Just stay still. Vryn's mind reeled. This had to be a trick. Psychological warfare. Let him heal just enough to break him in interrogation. He tried to push the human's hand away, but his strength was failing. Another soldier approached, a female this time, casting a glance at the medic. Jensen, you sure about this? He's the enemy. Jensen didn't even look up. Yeah? Well, he's also dying. And we don't leave people behind. Vryn's breathing hitched. What kind of madness was this? Vryn was certain this was a trick. It had to be. No enemy tended to the wounded unless they wanted something in return. Information, cooperation, submission. And yet, the humans did none of those things. The one called Jensen kept working on his wounds, hands firm but careful. He spoke softly, more to himself than to Vryn, muttering things like, "This would be easier if your anatomy wasn't a complete mystery, and damn, you guys bleed a lot." Vryn lay motionless, not from compliance, but because his body refused to obey him. The painkillers, human medicine, no doubt, dulled his agony but left his limbs heavy, sluggish. He hated feeling powerless. Hated the way these strange creatures moved around him with such casual confidence, as if he were just another wounded soldier instead of their enemy. The female soldier, her name was Ortiz, if he heard correctly, stood nearby, keeping her rifle trained on him, though her posture was more wary than aggressive. She was watching him, waiting for a reason to shoot. That, at least, made sense. Jensen finished stabilizing Vryn's injuries, then leaned back with a satisfied grunt. All right, that should keep you from bleeding out until we get you to base. Base. Vryn tensed. His mandibles twitched. So that was it. They were taking him prisoner. Jensen must have noticed his reaction, because he sighed and sat back on his heels. Look, I know what you're thinking. But we're not going to torture you or anything. We don't do that. Vryn let out a weak, bitter laugh. Every species does. Jensen shook his head. Not us. Ortiz scoffed. We probably should. You and your people didn't show us any mercy when you glassed Outpost Echo. Vryn flinched. Not from guilt. He had done what was necessary, but from the realization that these humans were different. They felt the weight of loss. They mourned. They raged. His kind did not. Jensen shot Ortiz a look. We don't leave people behind, he repeated firmly. Not even our enemies. The words hung heavy in the air. Vryn didn't understand. Couldn't understand. His people saw weakness and compassion. To offer aid to an enemy was unthinkable. But the humans, they simply did it without question. And that terrified him more than anything. Vryn had never seen the inside of a human military camp before. He had expected cold steel, cages, perhaps even interrogation chambers. Instead, he was placed in what the humans called a field hospital, a chaotic but efficient structure of reinforced fabric and metal, filled with the scent of antiseptic and blood. Human wounded were everywhere. Soldiers with missing limbs, burned flesh, and bandaged wounds occupied cots, groaning in pain. The medics moved swiftly between them, tending to their own before occasionally checking on him. No one spoke to him directly. No one asked him for information. It unsettled him more than torture ever could. Vryn's wounds had been properly sealed now, and despite the dull ache in his side, his strength was returning. He had observed enough of their movements to start forming an escape plan. He counted the number of guards, noted the patrol routes, and examined the tense structure for weak points. The humans were not careless, but they were trusting. The restraints around his wrists were sturdy, but they left his legs free. A mistake. One he would exploit. He flexed his claws experimentally, feeling the strength return to his fingers. He would wait until nightfall, slip past their security, and... Thinking about running? Vryn's mandibles clicked in surprise. He turned his head to see Jensen standing beside his cot, arms crossed, expression unreadable. The human had approached silently, like a predator. Vryn bared his teeth. You expect me to remain here willingly? Jensen shrugged. Not really. But I'd rather you didn't do anything stupid. He pulled up a chair, sitting backward on it, arms resting on the backrest. Look, I get it. Your people don't do the whole prisoner of war thing. You're probably waiting for us to start interrogating you, maybe throw you in a cage or something. But that's not how we operate. Vryn narrowed his eyes. Then why am I still alive? Jensen smirked. Because I patched you up. And if I'd let you die, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Vryn scoffed. Your morality makes you weak. Jensen leaned forward. Maybe. But it also means that when one of our guys goes down, we don't abandon them. We fight harder. We survive longer. You think leaving people behind makes you strong? Maybe it just makes you alone. Vryn didn't respond. He couldn't. Jensen stood, stretching. Anyway, if you want to try escaping, be my guest. Just know that if you get caught, someone less friendly than me might be on guard duty. With that, he walked off, leaving Vryn in silence. The escape plan was still viable. And yet, for the first time in his life, he hesitated. Vryn's opportunity for escape came faster than expected, but not in the way he had anticipated. The human outpost was under attack. It started with distant explosions, the ground trembling beneath his cot. Shouting erupted across the camp, orders being barked as soldiers rushed to their positions. The air filled with the crackling sound of gunfire and plasma discharges. Vryn's instinct screamed at him to move. This was his chance. In the confusion, no one would notice one wounded prisoner slipping away into the night. He swung his legs over the cot, testing his balance. His side ached, but his body was strong enough to move. He had already observed the best escape route, a gap between two supply crates leading to a lightly guarded perimeter. He could disappear into the trees before the battle was over. Then he heard the screaming. Vryn turned his head sharply. Near the collapsed remains of a medical tent, Jensen lay pinned beneath a pile of rubble, blood running down his forehead. His rifle was just out of reach, his face twisted in pain as he struggled to push the debris off his legs. Vryn's claws clenched. This was not his concern. The humans had made their choice to take him in. They had shown him their foolish mercy. But that did not mean he owed them anything. His people would not have hesitated. If a soldier was wounded beyond use, they were left behind, an unfortunate but necessary sacrifice for survival. He should run. And yet, he didn't. His body moved before his mind could stop it. With a growl, he sprinted toward Jensen, ignoring the sharp pain in his side. His claws dug into the rubble as he heaved the debris away, his muscles straining under the weight. Jensen gasped as the pressure on his legs lessened, his wide eyes locking onto Vryn's. What are you doing? He managed, voice strained. Vryn didn't answer. He just grabbed Jensen by the vest and pulled him free. The moment the human was clear, Vryn collapsed to one knee, panting. Jensen stared at him in disbelief. Then, despite the chaos, despite the pain, he grinned. Knew you weren't as heartless as you pretend to be. Vryn scowled, turning away. I should have let you die. Jensen chuckled, wincing as he tested his injured leg. Maybe. But you didn't. Vryn had no answer to that. For the first time in his life, he had broken the code of his people. And he wasn't sure why. Vryn should have left when he had the chance. That thought echoed in his mind as he sat on the edge of a supply crate, watching the humans move about the camp, patching wounds, reinforcing defenses, and tending to their injured. He had made his choice. When the opportunity for escape had come, he had thrown it away. Not for himself, not for survival, but for a human. And now, the humans no longer treated him like a prisoner. They no longer watched him with suspicion, no longer kept their weapons trained on him. Instead, they spoke to him, some hesitantly, others with surprising ease. A few even offered him food, nutrient bars and ration packs, which he had reluctantly accepted. And Jensen had taken to sitting beside him whenever he had a free moment, chatting about things that made no sense to Vryn. This war's been dragging on too long, Jensen said one evening, stretching his legs out in front of him. Feels like we've been fighting for years. Hell, maybe we have. Hard to tell anymore. Vryn remained silent, staring at the campfire in front of them. Jensen glanced at him. You don't talk much, huh? I have nothing to say. Jensen smirked. That's a lie. Vryn tensed. The human leaned forward, resting his elbows on his knees. You're thinking about it. About why you saved me. Vryn's mandibles clicked in irritation. It was a mistake. Uh-huh. Vryn turned his head sharply. Do you mock me? Jensen chuckled. Nah, just calling it how I see it. He gestured around the camp. Look at them. You think anyone here gives a damn that you're an alien? You saved me, so you're one of us now. That's how it works. Vryn narrowed his eyes. I am not human. Jensen shrugged. Maybe not, but you sure as hell aren't like the rest of your people either. That struck deeper than Vryn expected. Because Jensen was right. His people would have left him to die. The humans had saved him. And worse, he had saved one of them in return. No one left behind. The words gnawed at him, burrowing into the foundations of everything he had once believed. Because, deep down, he realized something horrifying. He no longer knew where he belonged. The sky burned with fire. Vryn stood at the edge of the human outpost, watching as ships descended from the heavens, sleek, angular vessels bearing the insignia of the Zarkari Dominion. His people had returned. To finish the job. The humans scrambled to defensive positions, preparing for the inevitable. Their numbers were already thin from the last attack, their supplies running low. They had no chance of holding out against a full Dominion assault. Vryn knew what came next. His people would leave no survivors. The humans had offered him mercy, but the Dominion had no such weakness. The moment they arrived, they would burn everything to the ground. Including the ones who had saved him. A transmission crackled in his ear, his people, reaching out. Commander Vryn, we detected your signal. You have been presumed dead. Transmit your location for extraction. Vryn swallowed hard. The words should have brought relief. Instead, they filled his chest with something else. Something heavier. Jensen appeared beside him, gripping his rifle. That your people? Vryn didn't answer. Jensen exhaled. Well, I guess this is where we find out whose side you're really on. Vryn's claws curled into fists. His side? The Dominion would welcome him back if he returned. He could give the humans positions, ensure a swift and merciful execution rather than drawn-out slaughter. He could end this. But then he looked around, at the wounded, at the exhausted, at the humans who had no reason to save him but had done so anyway. And he realized the truth. The Dominion had abandoned him the moment he fell. The humans had not. His mandibles tightened. He lifted his hand, pressing the communicator. And then he spoke. No. The line crackled with static. Repeat, Commander? Vryn exhaled. His decision was already made. I said no. A pause. Then a cold, unfamiliar voice. Then you are a traitor. The transmission cut out. Vryn turned to Jensen, his pulse steady, his choice clear. I suppose I am. Jensen grinned, handing him a rifle. Welcome to the team. As the first Sarkari dropships broke through the clouds, Vryn took his place beside the humans. No one left behind. Not anymore.